Welcome to this episode of Countercurrents. I'm Larry Johnson. Hey, today I'm really happy to have a new friend, Sergey Karaganov. He is a very well-known Russian political scientist, academic, longtime foreign policy advisor to both Vladimir Putin, Boris Yeltsin. Hey, listen, thanks for doing this. You are unique among political scientists because normally political scientists are irrelevant. They talk about things that have no basis in reality. You, on the other hand, had a vision, and you discussed how Russia really needed to turn to the east. Its future was in the east, not the west. Could you describe how you came to that conclusion and did you get pushback and opposition from within Russia, or was it well embraced?
Well, I have had, of course, my own intellectual history. Originally, as most of the Russian intellectuals, I was a Europhile. And even about 40 years ago, I was a specialist on the United States, but I was one of the founders of the Institute of Europe in the 80s, whose aim was to bring us together with Europe. Mm-hmm. And then I got into really deep European affairs, and in 3 or 4 years, I understood that there's no way for us there. But at that time, I never disclosed my foundings because I would have been I've been many times ostracized, but I have been totally ostracized and neglected at that time. Mm-hmm. I actually persuaded President Yeltsin early 1992, late 1991, to apply for our membership in NATO, because I hoped that if we join NATO would not will cease to be an anti-Russian alliance. Yeltsin was rejected. And then I continued my intellectual journey. But by the time when my affiliation with Europe and the West, with the United States, it was even earlier, completely finished in 1996, when I understood that the West is really going to expand NATO. And then I started to talk to my audience that it would inevitably mean a war. And by 1991, when NATO raided to Yugoslavia, I became really anti-European and anti-Western. However, I didn't disclose that, and I was a little bit amazed when President Putin, who was probably of my age and of my generation, still applied for NATO membership in 1991. I was amazed.
You mean 1999, right?
No, in 2001.
Oh, 2001, okay.
2001. And he's said about that. But then beginning from 1999, I have started to persuade my competitors to turn east. Then I involved in that process Evgeny Maximovich Primakov, who was at that time, a very senior leader. And with his help, we developed the first draft of the future Russian strategy, which was called The New Development of Siberia. Mm-hmm. But it was published, and we discussed it, but it never took off, because most of the Russian elite and even population was Euro or Western oriented. Then, but I continued, and then in mid-2000s, I invited a group of young scholars and said, there's no future there. but we are still in this capitalist mood. So use economic arguments. Why should we turn to the East? And that's how we started the first turn to the East, which Putin proclaimed in 2011.
Listen, so as I watch the situation right now, I'd like to sort of extend your turn to the East philosophy to why is Russia even negotiating with Donald Trump in the United States? Because I hate to say this for my own country, I don't trust us. I think Russia's wasting its time talking to Trump and to try to change the West, because right now there is no, apart from a few, there is such a visceral hatred of Russia. It's very difficult to turn it around.
Larry, I completely agree with your assessment, but I was extremely unhappy when Donald Trump offered his quote-unquote peace deal, because it went nowhere. But as I understand the position of the leader of our country or the leadership, it was very hard to send him to hell immediately.
Yeah.
Because people were dying. I mean, we were fighting a battle which brought a lot of casualties, and I have been extremely unhappy with the way we started that special military operation and with the way we conducted it. But we fought, and it was very hard just to say no to such a proposal. So we shall try. If we arrive at some kind of an agreement with piecemeal stopgap operation before obviously the problem would not be solved. The problem is, of course, is threefold. One is that European elites are in desperate mood. They need an enemy, and they will continue support any war with Russia. Second problem is that, which was partially created by ourselves, is that most of the Ukrainian population is hostile, and Ukraine is in desperate mood. And the third problem, which we almost never discuss, is that in spite of the fact that President Trump probably wants a peace deal to become the peacemaker.
Yeah.
United States is not interested in stopping this war.
Right.
I'm just writing an article where I'll put that in print. If I were an American president, I wouldn't propose a real peace, because continuation of a low-key conflict in Europe is extremely helpful or profitable for the United States. You sell arms, you're not risking anymore, hopefully, and you are sucking the residual juices from Europe. So we'll have a piecemeal deal, a stopgap operation, an armistice, and then we shall see. I'm unhappy with this future deal, though I will support it because it stops unnecessary bloodshed.
All right, folks, hold on just a second. We've got something important to share with you. First off, a big thank you for all your incredible support. Our team's been putting in the hours, really working hard to bring you insightful guests, new and improved formats, solid, high-quality analysis every week. Our next goal, hitting that 100,000 subscriber mark and getting that silver button. Let's make it happen together. Every like, comment, share, and subscription truly helps us grow and keep improving. All right then, let's get back to the video.
Well, there are articles being written in the West that suggest that Putin would be willing to make a deal in which he would, Ukraine would leave the Donbas, but that Putin, in theory, could negotiate over Kherson and Zaporizhia. And I keep telling people, I say, you're not listening. The Russians have been very clear. Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, they're now permanently part of Russia. Putin doesn't have the authority. He doesn't have the legal foundation to negotiate any of that territory away. Am I wrong, or is...
Judicially, you're right. But there are facts on the ground. As to my own assessment, that I couldn't speak for President of Russia. I would say that this conflict, this war, which has been unleashed partially by the United States, but mostly by Europe long ago, could only be finished when and if we crush the will of the European elites for the third time, or the fourth time in history, for aggression and that's why we are now facing only a piecemeal solution. In principle, in an official Russian position, which we now are cautious about putting forward, is total demilitarization and denazification of Europe. That's total change of regime, which is unthinkable because for that we have to occupy Ukraine, God forbids. All of Ukraine, God forbids. And demilitarization is not in the cards, and also it is extremely hard to achieve that without crushing the will of European elites to continue this war, and without persuading American top leadership that if they continue in a soft way to support that operation, they are still supporting this operation, though they're willing. They're telling that they want to finish it. That would lead to escalation, and hopefully, we wouldn't be necessitated to cross the threshold. But if needed, we should.
Actually, the thought had crossed my mind based upon Trump's recent actions in terms of how he decided he was going to take over Greenland, and picking a fight with Denmark. I said, is it possible that at the Anchorage summit, Putin and Trump are sitting there, and Trump says, tell you what, Vladimir, I'll help you out here. I'll blow up NATO from the inside. I'll get rid of it. That will eliminate the root cause.
Well, it is too good to be true, first of all. And second, Trump or anybody else doesn't have the means at his hands to deliver even on this wild proposition. History goes on. Gradually, we will have to pass the period of history when, of 500 years, when Europe has been, that with the help of the United States, have been ruling the world, imposing its culture, its economic interests, actually sacking its wealth, we are in this process. At this juncture, I think that yes, but maybe you would disagree with me, could retreat with honor. And I am urging my government to allow or to help the United States to retreat with honor from the position of a global liberal superpower, which it does not deserve, and which is becoming counterproductive.
Yeah.
But there will be a lot of problems along the road. You know, your elite, or a large part of it is infatuated with this global missionary role of a liberal globalist empire. However, it is a process. Hopefully, we should help the United States to go back where it belongs, to be a great power, but one of them.
Well, I think one of the problems I'm seeing is that over here we live in a delusion. I don't know if you know Seymour Hersh. Seymour has been we've been friends for 45 years. He's mad at me right now because his last article, he was talking to basically, I think it was a CIA official. And the CIA official was telling him what he really believed, and it was all lies. I mean, lie after lie about Russia. I mean, one of them was that, 2 weeks ago, all cell phone and internet service was shut down in Russia. And I told Cy, I said, look, I'm in communication with people. I think I exchanged messages with one of your assistants. I said, that's not true. But
well, I mean, there are problems with communications which they are interfered by Western quote unquote interference. I mean, the system of communications here is far more advanced than in any country except for China and Korea.
Yeah.
That I know. I mean, they are working absolutely gorgeously.
Well,
But there are interferences, and they are from abroad.
Well, but my point is that, when I worked at the CIA as an analyst, I felt my job was to tell the president the truth, even if it didn't go with my own ideological orientation. My job was to try to give as objective an analysis as possible. And what we have right now is clear evidence. The intelligence community, the analysts, they're lying to Donald Trump. And to members of Congress. They're saying things, Russia's suffering massive casualties, that Russia's army is terrible, that the economy is on the verge of, they're telling them that. And as a result of that's driving U.S. policy still.
Oh, wow. Now we have been disinformed, for decades. United States, and we in the former Soviet Union. Now, it is all lies. So I'm telling to the extent I'm a minority, but I'm still a professor. Sometimes I'm talking to my students or senior postgraduates. I'm saying, don't trust anything you read.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm telling them jokingly, including me. Though as you know, I try to be sincere and truthful. So some of the elites in Europe, and especially in the United States, are interested in the continuation of this bloody war. And that's why they're feeding even President Trump with false information. But there is a sense, there is a problem. We have been waging a war for too long, You know that I have been criticizing my own government, and including the top leadership, for not acting decisively earlier.
Right.
And we have continued for too long. We have to change our strategy vis-a-vis Europe and the West. We have to continue to push the United States out of this conflict, though United States, and I'll be putting that in writing, in principle, is not interested in the end of the hostilities if they're not involved directly. Because it brings them a lot of political and economic profits. They're selling arms. They're sucking Europe of its wealth, bleeding Europe white. Why not to continue that? But it is our task to show first to these mad Europeans and then to Americans that if they continue, would have to go up to the ladder of escalation. That would be a very risky and, I would say, sinful act, but it might be necessary. I'm happy that, as you know, during the last several years, I have been pushing for the change of our nuclear doctrine. We have lowered the threshold, and 2 months ago, President Putin said that if Europe continues with this war against Russia or escalates it, there will be nobody in Europe to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
That was a profound step up. There are several layers of escalation before, of course, it's too late. Hopefully, Americans and especially Europeans could read the message. But I think in your country, with all my doubts, there are people like you and many others, including hopefully around Trump, who understand the seriousness of the problem. In Europe, there are none.
Yeah.
Well, they're simply intellectually they have intellectually degraded and completely irresponsible. They are. I don't want to use this word. They're like a pack of crazy dogs.
Yeah. Hey, well, do you assign any importance to what appears to be a shift in tone recently by both Meloni of Italy and Merz of Germany, where they basically have now acknowledged, well, yeah, we need to talk to Russia? Do you think that's actually a serious change in attitude, or is that just cosmetic?
Well, I mean, I mean, they have started to understand. The polls even did that even before. That if things will continue like that, it would end up for absolute disaster for their countries. Because even when Russia decides to act decisively, I mean, and that is to use nuclear weapons, there will be a total victory. But I don't want it because it would mean a lot of innocent victims.
Yeah.
But they are maneuvering. They will be offering us in half a year all kind of compromises, all kind of conversations, blah, blah, blah. My advice to my government is, of course, restore some economic relations. Of course, persuade them to stop their complete Iron Curtain-like policy that forbids Europeans to talk to Russians. By the way, that's true. I mean, a conversation like us is almost impossible between me and myself and Europeans, though I'm a member, I mean, a very member of the former European elite. They are forbidden. Of course, we have some connections, but they are preparing their populations for war, though they don't understand that the war would mean annihilation of Europe. So they will be maneuvering. And my advice to my government, to my friends in the Russian establishment is, restore some of the ties, but never trust Europeans anymore. I mean, we have finished our European journey about 150 years later than we should have. We should have stopped it about 1850 something. By that time, we already had, great composers, great writers, which were born also because we got the inoculation of European culture to our cultural body. But after that time, we got only disasters, diseases from Europe. But now our European journey should be finished. And that is why people like myself and the widening circle of supporters are devising the second turn to the east, and that is secularization of Russia.
Well, yeah, this isn't really the first time that Russia has, I'll say, reached out to the east. And I admit I was ignorant of this until I started looking into it. But during the Great Patriotic War, when China was fighting, 70% of the Japanese army was deployed into China, and the Soviet Union then was providing military assistance not just to Mao Zedong but also to the Kuomintang. And so there was that. Without Russia's support, China very well might have collapsed then. So that, because in the West, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the different, I'll call them so-called scholars who insist that, there's no way that Russia can have a relationship with China because Russia's going to be just second fiddle to China. Russia's needs to align with the West to oppose China. And I mean, it's crazy, but can you even correct that attitude or that perception?
Well, I mean, we have to have a balanced policy. That's why many people in Russia would love to restore some kind of a more correct relationship with the United States, trading and cooperating in some security fields. But there is a real problem, and that is that during the last 300 plus years, we have been infatuated with Europhilia, not willing to understand that Europe has been the source of all evil in human history. Racism, colonialism, multiple genocides, world wars. Now we're at last starting to understand that. And so the turn to the east is not turn to China, because China is a friend, and we should be careful, but balance them. But we should continue with this. But we have to restore our true identity, and our true identity is, of course, Eurasia. The ancient Rus wouldn't have survived on Eastern European plain if in the 16th and 17th century. Some of our contemporaries, for almost unknown reasons, other than the will of Providence and Almighty, crossed the Ural Mountains, and then in 60 years reached Kamchatka. And that's where that's when and after we have become a great power. But now we have also to understand our true roots, and our spiritual roots are in the south. We have taken Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism from south and from southeast. And our political system, with all, of course, Russian peculiarities, was inherited from the greatest empires of them all, Genghis Khan Empire. But it is very hard for many Russians to acknowledge that. So when I'm talking to my competitors, they're saying, they are still believing that they are Europeans. I am one of the most European of Russians. I adore European culture. I'm cultural European.
Right.
But and I know in the United States, but we are not Europeans, especially not present Europeans. But we will keep, of course, Haydn. Now we will keep Beethoven. We will keep Dante and Shakespeare in our eyes. We have to finish our European journey.
Well,
or voyage, I would say, because it's voyage is a foreign name, a foreign sounding name for a journey in Russia.
Right. Well, one of the things in the course of I've been fortunate to have had a lot of different conversations with a whole spectrum of people in Russia, including like Gennady Zyuganov, and up from him to say Vyacheslav Fetisov, quite a spectrum. But one thing I found, the Russians have a unique way of looking at the world, and I wonder if you make the mistake of assuming that that's how the West looks at the world. And what I mean by that is you have a collaborative outlook, that when you come into a situation, your attitude is not, how can I take advantage of this person? How can I be in control of this situation? How can I dominate? It's more like, how can we work together to improve and make something? And it's just the opposite from here in the West. I've told the joke of these two agents in Hollywood, people who manage stars, and they look at this one beautiful woman as she walks by, and they go, "Boy, I'd like to screw her." What says one, and the other agent says, "Out of what?" So it's like, how do I take advantage of this person? And that's very much, unfortunately, sort of I'll call it a Western way of dealing with the world. And I don't see that in Russia.
Oh, well, we are different. And of course, we are different within ourselves. There are many traits in our national character. But if I would talk about Russia as a national character, I would say first we are warriors, because we have lived and survived constantly being victimized by all kind of aggressors. Second,
Right.
We are unbelievably culturally open, even more than Americans, much more. Also, we are unbelievably religiously open. And our expansion, which was, of course, not without blood, was not the Western expansion, not colonization. Was we integrated our peoples which we took, or territories which we took over, and we integrated with them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you say, and that is absolutely the source of the Russian identity. We integrate with them. So, I mean, we are open to all cultures, except most, and we aim at looking for a common solution. But of course, I mean, it's not obvious. It's because we have a history. We had to sometimes to fight. I have one of my best loved sentences in Russian literature belonged to not the writer, which was absolutely gorgeous, but not too well known in the outside world because he lived a quiet life in the 10s, 20s, and died in the early 30s of the last year, who gave the best possible description of the Russian I've heard. He said, the Chancellor of the Russian Empire, Graf Baron Erich Maria Ivan Vasilievich Nesterode, was born from a Jewish mother and a German father on a Spanish galleon traveling from London to Lisbon. That is Russian. Of course, it's half a joke, of course. But that is really, even if you dug into my own history, if I dug into my own history, there's a mixture of cultures and bloods. However, we are Russian.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've come to understand, at least I believe, Russia has a unique role to play for the West right now, because I think the West is on the cusp of a collapse. But what's going on economically, if you've been following the gold and silver market, the foundation of the West economic financial empire, it's starting to implode. And Russia went through an implosion like that in the early 90s, and yet comes out of it over the course of what has happened in the last 26 years, marking from the time that Putin takes office, that the transformation economically of the society. But Russia has also shown that despite a 10-year war with Chechnya, instead of staying as enemies, has been able to reconcile with the Muslim population. That I've seen Russia has a unique way of how to get along and live with other people, I guess is what I'm saying. It's something that we don't have here in the West that you have unique.
Well, I mean, some people in the West have this capacity, but Russians are in that way. I'm proud of being Russian. That is truly unbelievable. And sometimes it is detrimental. We forgive our enemies, and then embrace them. And I must say that I'm criticizing some of my former leaders and now leaders for forgiving Germans for what they have done for Russia and the world. They are now again resurrecting as the Germans of the past. Hopefully, we will be able to stop them before they become the real threat for humanity, as they have been during most of the last century. But we have forgiven Germans. Imagine. I mean, they have been doing unbelievable things in this country.
Right.
But we have forgiven them. And as to the Chechen war, I mean, as you have mentioned, and many others, we have been able over the years, due to all kind of cultural reasons, which we would talk about later, which I think we have also inherited from the Mongol Empire, have been able to integrate elites of the countries which are adjacent to us. And the Chechens, which we have put bitterly when they wanted independence, and where they were supported by the foreign intelligence service and Arabs at that time. But now the Chechens are the best warriors fighting in Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and we're proud of them.
Yeah. I've met.
So they are in a way. Of course, their culture is a bit different from others, but they are the best Russians.
Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate to spend some time with Abdi Aladinov. And he's what fascinates me about him is, one, he is a devout Muslim. He's very, very faithful in that regard, but he sees himself first and foremost as, I'm Russian. Ya Rossiya, and it's not an act. It's deep and heartfelt. And I contrast that with what we've experienced here in the United States with our own Civil War in 1860s, that at the end of that war, there was not really this reconciliation. And in fact, the North, instead of trying to rebuild the South, didn't, whereas what Russia did with Chechnya was, you went in and rebuilt Chechnya. With my understanding is that the mosque there in Grozny is perhaps the largest mosque in the world. So, I mean, Russia put its money where its mouth was.
That is straight to our culture. We, unlike European powers, the United States are different. When we quote unquote colonized, we didn't siphon off the resources. Instead, we developed these countries. And I must say that as a ethnic Russian, I was a bit uneasy when I saw that most of the former republics of the Soviet Union were much more affluent than Russia per se, whatever it is. And by the way, Ukraine was what is now called Ukraine, the Ukrainian territories, were the greatest recipient of subsidies in the former Soviet Union. Georgia was the greatest recipient of subsidies per capita. So in a way, I understood some of the Russians, but I didn't share their policy when they were saying that when reading up the Soviet Union, we want to read of a huge burden.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mistake. And but it is us. We are still, using a very absolute word, a very internationalist. Of course, there are nationalists here and foreigners here.
Right.
But Russia is a uniquely internationalist nation, which is the first to come to rescue of those who are suffering. And when we don't do that, we believe that is a sin. And one of the critical elements in our discussion is that we didn't come to rescue to allow us and others after the collapse of the regime in Syria. But as you know, I'm against many normal interests. Russians have been for decades trying to help the Balkan nations to free themselves from the Ottoman rule.
Right.
That is unexplainable in terms of economic interest, etc. It was just because we believe, and I hope we will still believe. We believe in Almighty, we believe in God, and we are very strong Christian, and hopefully Christianity, and especially in the Orthodox right, is returning back, in spite of the fact that communists, because they wanted to supplant Russian faith with their quasi-faith harmonies,
Right.
work against our faiths. I think, interestingly enough, it is returning. I mean, over a couple of weeks ago, I went in to the church when we had been having one of our greatest holidays. It was night, and it was full of children out in the middle of nowhere. Children and young people.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Iran. Right now, what I'm seeing, and I put out an article last night, the United States has built up its military, its naval and air forces in the region in a great, we have a much larger presence now than we did in June of 2025 when we're involved with that first attack on Iran. So I think Trump is genuinely going to launch a military operation. And I think part of, I'm not sure Trump understands this, but I think what I'll say the deep state plan is they see that weakening Iran is one way to drive a knife into the underbelly of Russia. That Iran is a stepping stone for the ultimate goal of breaking up Russia. Do you think the Russian leadership sees it that way, understands it that way, or not?
Well, I couldn't couldn't speak on the behalf of Russian leadership, but I have my own assessments.
Sure.
I know that Americans are obsessed with Iran, especially due to the Jewish or Israel influence there. But when and I am aghast at what Americans and Israelis are doing there, because it is indecent. It has been indecent. But even when Iran changes people at the top, we shall be very close to Iran again. There's no question about that. Because we have had excellent relations, well, also we had feuds in the 19th century, but we have excellent relations with Shah. Then actually, when revolution started, we have cooling down on our relationship because they believe that we are also part of the satanic West. And I hope that Iran would recuperate from its infatuation with extremism, and it will become a great power again. Persia has been over centuries one of the greatest powers and one of the greatest cultures in the world. And I'm absolutely sure that even, hopefully, not by force, something changes in Iran, we'll have a good relationship with them. There's no question about that.
Do you think Russia would intervene militarily on behalf of Iran if attacked by the United States?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I would advise my government not to do that, because when everything collapses and everything is in turmoil, the better strategy is what I call fortress Russia. Cater to your own development and for the safety of your nearest neighbors, and let others, if they wish, to waste their time and treasure and lives in all kind of adventurous expeditions. As far as I understand, uh, Trump doesn't want to engulf himself into another war. If he engulfs himself into another war, either Venezuela and then Brazil and then Iran, and then the United States will get back where it used to be. United States will be overextended for all kind of ideological, political, and economic reasons. And now it is trying to come back to where it belongs. And an expedition in Iran will bring disaster.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. To the area, to the region, and eventually to this. And I don't think that I hope that your leadership, unlike the previous decades when I knew many of your leaders, I am not acquainted with them anymore. I hope they wouldn't make this fatal mistake of going into a war with a country with the great traditions of fighting.
Yeah,
that would be absolute disaster. Hopefully that would happen all the more that it will bring disaster to the area, because the conflict will spread. Obviously.
Yeah. I was laying out scenarios, and there's a very, very ugly scenario because unlike the June war, where it was a surprise attack, Iran limited its response and didn't pursue the war, which it could have pursued, and it made a deal essentially with the United States.
I'm not a supporter of Iranian policies or war. I mean, we are friendly, etc., etc. But Iranians also made a few very serious mistakes over these several decades because of their religious straightforwardness. They refused to build up a nuclear potential. That was a severe mistake.
Yeah. If they'd done so,
if they wouldn't have done that, we would have had probably, after maybe having Saudi Arabia or Egypt also developing some kind of a nuclear potential, would have had a much more stable and balanced situation in the larger Middle East. But Iranians made a severe mistake.
Well, let me close out because we're coming to the end of our hour. What is your assessment of BRICS, and how has it emerged with greater importance in the course of the last 4 years? Because what I'm seeing is that I don't think either Russia or China anticipated how quickly BRICS would develop, and that you are now in the position of really replacing the Western financial system.
Well, let us put it this way. The Western financial system is obsolete and is falling apart. Anyway, because of the foundation of that system, and that is the military superiority of Europe, and then the Europe plus the United States, has been undermined. So it is natural. As to the evolution of BRICS and the like, I mean, they will obviously supplant the current obsolete and ineffective financial and economic system, which is failing not only because of the preponderance of the whole dollar, etc., etc. We have a major problem, and that is that the more modern capitalism, which is devoid of ethnic foundations, cultural, religious foundation, is running out of course. We have to think about that seriously together. It's not against the West.
Right.
We have to think about that together. The BRICS is, quote unquote, is an alternative, but it is an alternative which would, in a way, support that transition of the world financial and economic system towards a more stable and economic order, which we hopefully will reach in about 15, 20 years if we avoid a global thermonuclear war in between. We are moving towards through the spirit of multipolarity, which we all support, but which is only a passing period towards some kind of a new system where there will be several leaders, but not dominant leaders, and which will be based on much more sound and fair foundation. I hope that before I die, I will see the emergence of that system with 4 or 5 leaders, but leaders with no possibilities or ambitions to suppress and reign.
Sure.
In.
Well, listen,
that is my dream.
Well, I congratulate you on so far having been an influential voice in making and helping make Russia what Russia is today. And I count myself fortunate to have you as a new friend. And please also give my regards to your lovely wife. She was a great tour guide for us.
Absolutely, Larry. When you come next to Russia, I would invite you to my house, which is now you're a hunter, which is first of all a true Russian house. I mean, it is built along the lines of a true Russian house of the 19th century, but with a lot of trophies. Both Russian and foreign. So be my guest.
I look forward.
Thank you very much.
I look forward. And listen, thank you, my friend.
Okay.
Listen, it's a great conversation with Sergey. He is a terrific man, a gentleman, a scholar, and a visionary. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit the like, subscribe button. Trying to continue to build the channel, attract viewers, and provide an education for people. My focus is very much on trying to cultivate a dialogue, understanding between Russia and the United States. We're better off as friends than as enemies. Thanks for watching. I'm Larry Johnson. This is Countercurrents.